Welcome to the Pulse with Peter B. I'm your host, Peter Biancamano. Let's get you to the pulse on everything you need to know. And today's show is sponsored by Rumble Boxing. Go visit our friends at 1202 Shipyard Lane and rumble at your own pace. And it's also sponsored by New Jersey Appleseed, giving people a voice while getting others to listen. And we're going to jump right into one of our favorite sponsors, which is the person to my right. And of course, she was here last week, or last episode, I should say. It feels like last week, right, Cheryl?
Feels like yesterday.
It feels like yesterday is right. And that is the Director of Growth and Outreach at New Jersey Appleseed, our good friend Cheryl Fallick. Welcome back to the Pulse.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here.
Absolutely. It's wonderful to have you back.
Yeah.
And you know, Cheryl, in the last episode with Josh, and nobody's missing him this episode, but different story for a different time, we kind of touched the surface on this new workbook that NJ Appleseed introduced on medical debt and billing. And now today, on this episode, we're going to get into the nitty gritty of some of the chapters of this
I brought
workbook.
my notes.
I could tell, and I do too.
Yeah.
And you know, Cheryl, the first chapter is simply titled what?
Rights of insured people or patients. I'm not sure which.
People, patients, are the same type
thing,
of thing,
yeah.
right? And so, Cheryl, you know, and that is, I would say that's probably the majority of people in New Jersey and across the country, correct?
I would say probably some form of insurance or another. There are a lot of different types. So.
Exactly. So for people that do have insurance, like myself, you know, I guess like understanding what co-pays, co-insurance are, all of these terms that the workbook goes into.
Absolutely. The first thing the workbook does is talk about the different kinds of insurance. For example, HMOs, which we're all familiar with. We also talk about veterans benefits. We talk about Medicare and Medicaid and a whole litany, a little description of each one. And then we go into some of your common terms, which everybody needs to know to, you know, better understand how to navigate the healthcare sector in New Jersey. Such things as copay, how to appeal, denial of benefits, co-share, everything that, you know, that somebody probably needs to know. So if they're reading through a description of their insurance, they know what they're talking about.
Exactly. Exactly. And the workbook goes into that in great detail. So Cheryl, one of the things that I look at on my insurance card from my full-time employer is, you know, these terms or these type of plans, I should say, like PPO and HMO, and I guess Medicare and Medicaid. I mean, obviously when you're older, or if you're
Medicare, yes,
Medicare
exactly.
if you're older, Medicaid if you're, you know, less fortunate when it comes to income and things like that. But does the workbook go into kind of like the difference between all of these different plans?
It actually does. You'll get a quick, easy to understand paragraph of whatever type of insurance you have. And then it also shows like a description of your insurance card. So you can look at your card. I mean, many people might not even know, am I an HMO? Am I in a PPO? Am I in a PO point of service? As opposed to the other thing that we might talk about.
Different story for a different time.
Exactly. So that, like, knowing what type of plan you're in is probably your first order of business, because this will help you understand if you need pre-approvals to go to a specialist or not.
And many times your insurance card has that information, correct?
It's all there. And if you get the handbook, if you look at the medical debt handbook, there's little arrows that show you this is where you can see the type of plan you're in. This is where your name is. This is where you'll see your copay. This is where you'll see your deductible. I don't know if the card has your maximum out of pocket, because
Right.
that's also an important thing that everybody should know about their plan.
I tell you what, Cheryl, one thing that certainly happens, you know, with me is I go to the doctor, you know, I pay a copay, and then sometimes I get a bill, you know, in the mail later on. And sometimes the insurance card doesn't really cover or say what that bill is going to be. Why is that? And does the workbook that NJ Appleseed introduced to the world, you know, kind of like make it a little more clear for some patients?
Definitely learning how to read the bill, because reading your bill is more critical than one might think. People make mistakes. Who's ever doing the insurance payments may make a mistake. So it's important for every individual to be able to look at the bill when they get it and see if there's anything erroneous or mislisted. So you might have gone in for one thing, but they might have they might have coded it as something else, and therefore you're either not getting the benefits you're entitled to, or you're not getting the appropriate benefit that you're entitled to.
Interesting. And then there's these terms, Cheryl. I mean, people obviously who have to, go get a procedure or just go for a regular, checkup from the neck up, as I like to call it, Cheryl. These terms such as deductible, copay. But the one that I was interested about was out-of-pocket max. So the workbook, I'm assuming, goes into what these terms mean.
Absolutely. And out-of-pocket maximum, that even before I ever looked at this handbook, that was something that was critical to my understanding of what plan I was going to select for myself under the Affordable Care Act, which I was in, until I went into Medicare, which more recently. And that is so critical, because the out-of-pocket maximum means if you hit that maximum, and obviously you want it to be as low as possible, you're not going to be charged anything else. So if your out-of-pocket maximum is $2,000, which I'd love to see the plan that has that, that's the maximum that anybody can charge you through the calendar year.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Through the calendar year. But then it restarts the next calendar year. Exactly. So get all your appointments in by the end of the year, folks.
Exactly.
And Cheryl, you touched up upon this briefly, Affordable Care Act. Charity care. These are all different types of insurance programs, correct?
Well, the Affordable Care Act, we probably commonly will refer to that as
Obamacare.
The Obamacare. That's what people may say. But it is the Affordable Care Act. It is legitimately law. And what was the other thing you asked about?
Charity care.
Charity care. Now, that's another thing that's very important, particularly for, like, if you end up having to go into the emergency room and you end up having to be in the hospital. Every hospital in New Jersey must offer charity care, they must offer financial aid, and they must have it posted somewhere, or they must notify the patient. That is the law.
Interesting. Okay, so they can't refuse service, essentially.
Well, you have to be told that there is such a thing as charity care, and there is such a thing as financial aid, and you have to be told these things before you're billed, so that you can apply for charity care. Even if you have insurance, you may be eligible for, I want to make that clear, even if you have Medicare, Medicaid, you still may be entitled to charity care. And the handbook actually has an application, where to go to fill out an application for charity care.
Oh, my goodness. It's your one-stop shop, folks. And tell me the website for where people can find the handbook.
Okay, there are two different ways to access us. One is endmedicaldebtnj.com, and the other one that you can access on is endmeddebtnj.org. So either way you go in, you'll end up in the same place.
And Cheryl, we have about 60 seconds to go here. I do want to touch up on federal and state protections of insured patients, or people, whatever we want to call them here. What type of protections? Because a lot of time people in insurance would feel that they're not protected. Whatever their insurance covers, they cover, and that's it. The rest comes out of pocket.
Some of the things that we've just talked about are the law. There also is, I'm not exactly sure of the term, but there are protections for children experiencing illness. And there are end notes on each chapter, so people can read more about the federal and state protections. Now, we are also going to, as best as we can, as the laws change, keep this updated on our website and the handbook, although the handbook is a PDF. So it might be a little slower on updates there. I would recommend people, if you have the handbook, always double check the website.
Very, very interesting. And one more time, 7 seconds to go. What was that website where people could see the handbook?
endmedicaldebtnj.com or endmeddebtnj.org.
Cheryl Fallick, thank you so much. Folks, don't go anywhere. Cheryl's going to be with us for our last segment, talking about all of you folks at home who might be uninsured. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that. Cheryl, we'll see you a little later on in the show. I really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Absolutely. All right, folks, we will be right back. Peter Biancamano here, your hostess with the mostest of the Pulse with Peter B. Folks, don't forget to follow and like our Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok pages. We're constantly updating those platforms with cool stories and awesome reels. Also, you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we post all of our full shows, and you can also binge watch all of our previous episodes. And if you would like to contact us, feel free to reach out to our email address at thepulsewithpeterb@gmail.com. We'll see you there. Welcome back to The Pulse with Peter B. And folks, the last episode, we said that it might have been the last time we would have seen the gentleman to my right before the election, but you guys at home can't get enough, and he is back. And of course, that is Jersey City Ward D Councilman and District 32 Assembly candidate, not yet man, right? Yes. Yousef Saleh, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Never say never, Peter. I'm always, I'm going to start paying rent for the Pulse very soon.
We'll take it. And thank you for coming to Maxwell Place Pier in Hoboken. Come on. I know you're a Jersey City guy, but Hoboken, look at this view. Come on.
It's okay. It's the best view in the world, baby.
Exactly. So speaking of Hoboken, you have been boots to the ground. We are 3 days away from the election, which of course takes place on Tuesday, June the 10th. Polls are open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Boots on the ground, knocking on doors. You and your running mate, Assemblywoman Jessica Ramirez. What have you been hearing from voters and from residents here in the 32nd District in terms of their most important issues, and how could you resolve those issues?
Well, it runs the gamut, Peter. We have the helicopters that keep flying by that are terrorizing our neighborhoods. And, actually, my running mate, Assemblywoman Jessica Ramirez, she has a bill in Trenton that happened before the helicopter crash, essentially trying to ban non-essential helicopter traffic. It is a big quality of life issue. Then you have affordability and affordable housing. And essentially, we need to build more affordable units. We need to keep people in their current homes. We have right to counsel, but we need to expand it so it's not income restricted. How do you expand it? You have to get more money from Trenton back into the community. And you have transit, huge issue, okay? Because we're bumper to bumper traffic over here. But how do you get people off the road? You have to have reliable mass transit. So we need to fix the PATH train. We need to make sure that we're funding NJ Transit, because these wait times, they're not it right now. We have FIFA World Cup coming in 2026, and we need to make sure that we have reliable mass transit. Time is not on our side, Peter.
Absolutely. And you did lay out plans. Of course, you are running with the backing of your mayor, Jersey City Mayor Steve Fulop, who's running for Democratic nomination for governor. He laid out plans the last episode he was on here in terms of the PATH and how to increase the service and so on and so forth. Obviously, how important is it for him to be elected to governor for your plans to come through to fix these issues?
Mayor Fulop is the only candidate that could beat Jack Chitterelli. He has the grassroots organization. He has over 1,500 volunteers statewide. He is the person that has detailed policy platform on his website. Other people say that they're grassroots. They're really just AstroTurf, okay? He can do it. He has done it. He has broken the machine before, and he's about to do it again. And we're within a stone's throw. This June 10th, we have the opportunity in New Jersey to make sure that we can defeat the county line. We have done it, okay? And now it will be a reaffirmation of that once these candidates win.
Exactly. By the way, Muhammad Ali is back on the set, in case you guys didn't know that.
Thank you. I'm back, baby.
So, Yousef, you kind of touched upon this, Councilman, in your last answer. There are 6 people running for 2 seats in the District 32 Assembly race. You're running with the only incumbent in the race, Assemblywoman Jessica Ramirez, who you mentioned previously. What sets you and Assemblywoman Ramirez apart from the other 4 candidates in this race?
We're the realest candidates in this race, okay? We have real life experiences. Assemblywoman Jessica Ramirez, she is a sexual assault attorney. She represents people. She goes to trial. Only 1% of lawyers actually go to trial, okay? And for me, I am actually a council person. And before I was a council person, I was doing the job on Wall Street for corporate America, okay? And I left my job to become a council person to help my people during the pandemic. I'm the only council person never to miss a vote, never to miss a council meeting. I'm one of 3 that actually shows up to budget hearings. I don't hire family. I don't double dip. I literally do this just for the people. Okay, so Jessica, she's in there. She doesn't need on-the-job training. Down in Trenton, they laugh at Hudson County because we swap out assembly people like it's musical chairs.
Unbelievable. Absolutely. You're 100% correct about that. I think we haven't had a consistent assembly person in over 10 years or something like that. It's insane. It really, really is. And Yousef, let's talk about your dance moves. So, your running mate did a phenomenal job at a Puerto Rican, I believe, Day of Culture festival in Jersey City last weekend.
Yes.
And I kind of saw your dance moves were not on par. What's up with that?
I think my dance moves are best in the senior centers.
Exactly.
That's where I shine.
Anyway, but that actually leads me to my next question. Many times people say that you only see politicians when it comes to election time. You have been a staunch, supporter of this show by coming on here talking about your ward in Jersey City before you ran for assembly and so on and so forth. What can you tell the people at home who might be worried that they might not have the same type of interaction with you or Assemblywoman Ramirez if you get elected and not only see you during election time?
Well, I'll tell you this. The elections are every 2 years, okay? I have been an omnipresent presence here in Jersey City, and now I'm going to extend to Hoboken. I plan to have my family here. My family has always been here. It's the only home I've ever known. I'm the only candidate that actually attended these public schools. Right? So, and I intend on sending my children to these public schools. So I want to fix this city, this whole district for my future. Okay? My future kids, my future family. All right? Absolutely. We can't waste no time on this. This is a priority.
Exactly. And this is definitely the last time you will be on the show before the June 10th election. Again, polls are open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Tuesday, June the 10th. You can actually go out and do early voting today. Go to, I believe, the county website, and they'll have your early voting locations by what city you live in. What do you want to tell the voters of Hoboken, where we're sitting in today, and Jersey City, where you represent, of why they should entrust you with their votes on Tuesday or today?
Yeah, the taxes are too damn high. The rent is too damn high. The legislature looks at us as a joke. You need to send someone who's going to fight for you. I want to be your gladiator. I want to go down to the Golden Dome and make sure we're getting our money's worth. All those taxes we pay, we're an economic powerhouse for New Jersey. It doesn't make sense that our money isn't coming back to fund our schools, to fund our roads, to fund our public transit.
Amen. No, absolutely. We do have a little bit of time left. Why don't you tell the audience your ballot numbers for you and Councilwoman Ramirez so they know where to find you on the ballot?
1 and 2B, and come out and vote, please. Vote early, and tell your friends and family. We can't do this without you. We need you out there.
Well, Councilman Yousef Saleh, Ward D, Jersey City Councilman, we really, really appreciate it. And of course, candidate for District 32 Assembly. Councilman, you are more than welcome to come on this show whenever you want. After, for your sake, you get elected, correct?
Yes.
And what's even crazier, folks, there is a general election that Yousef, if he's lucky enough to win a Democratic nomination, has to run against a Republican nominee in November. So, we'll probably see you multiple times before then, hopefully.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy. That's what we're going to do. We'll be back.
Exactly. Again, Councilman Yousef Saleh from the Ward D in Jersey City, also a candidate for District 32 Assembly. Really appreciate it. Good luck on Tuesday. And to you and Assemblywoman Ramirez, really appreciate you having you on. All right, folks, we will be right back. Peter Biancamano back with you. Folks, we have a new television home. After being on cable access for so long, we are now strictly on streaming. So download the Surge Sports and Entertainment TV app on your Roku TV or your Amazon Fire TV and catch our new episodes every Sunday at 9 a.m. We will see you there. Welcome Welcome back to the Pulse of Peter B. Peter Biancamano still here at the gorgeous Maxwell Place Pier in Hoboken, New Jersey, and still here with our gorgeous guest. That's right, Cheryl, I said it. And that is the Director of Growth and Outreach at New Jersey Appleseed, Cheryl Fallick. Welcome back on.
Thank you. I noticed you said gorgeous the first time and gorgeous the second time.
You see?
You threw in the New Jersey in the first place.
You have to, you know.
Have to. Especially since we're talking about medical debt in New Jersey.
So there's a lot of people who, you know, get their Jersey come out,
exactly.
You know, when they receive bills in the mail. And of course, we are talking about the wonderful workbook that New Jersey Appleseed released, Medical Debt and Billing, which you can find on their website. And Cheryl, we're going to start with that. What's the website?
Okay, well, you can find it on the njappleseed.org website, but that's actually connecting you to the actual medical debt website, which is endmedicaldebtnj.com, or alternatively endmeddebtnj.org. And those are you can access it either way, or all three ways you can access this information.
That is terrific. Absolutely. Cheryl, earlier in the show, we spoke about the rights of insured patients. And we said that's probably the majority of the population in New Jersey and across the country. Maybe, but I actually think a huge chunk of the population, maybe 30–40% of the population, are uninsured patients. And this is where I think Appleseed did a great job by releasing this workbook, because if you're uninsured, a lot of people think that if they get sick, they're done, they're toast.
They're done, you're dead.
Exactly. But here, NJ Appleseed and this new wonderful workbook that they released will tell you otherwise. Where can uninsured patients get care?
Well, the first thing to know is that we are aware that there are some, it may be difficult for a patient who is uninsured or self-paid to actually see a doctor, but ask around. There might be some who are willing to work with you. Secondarily, always, and this is the one that people probably know about, emergency rooms. Hospitals in New Jersey, acute care hospitals in New Jersey, all of which are listed in the handbook, must treat you, whether you have insurance or not, and whether the insurance you have is one that hospital accepts. And then lastly, I'm going to actually read from my notes here. Federal qualified health centers, which include community-based nonprofits. I think, and I'm not 100% sure, but I think the one that people are familiar with that might fall under this are places like Planned Parenthood, for example.
So, yeah, no, and then there are clinics, correct? I guess that's family care, right?
Family care clinics, right?
Family care clinics,
you can get, you know, sometimes even free care. Very important to know. We want everybody to be, I mean, you know, in New Jersey, or even in the United States, healthcare is a big issue these days. This handbook will help you, no matter what your circumstances are, to achieve and access the care you need.
Very, very interesting. Now, Cheryl, others might say, or the uninsured might say, well, that's all fine and dandy, but do these come with a cost? And one of the things that the handbook talks about are estimates of costs that these healthcare providers, or centers, I should say, have to give patients that are uninsured, correct?
They must provide it, and we would actually recommend that you always ask for that before you access care. They are required by law to give you a good faith estimate of what the cost will be. You also can negotiate.
Wow, you can?
Yes, and I think that, you know, for some insurances, the provider is actually accepting less in the big picture of what the cost actually was or what was actually billed. They might do it for you as well as an individual self-pay patient.
And Cheryl, do you know that do these healthcare facilities, do they give, I don't want to say a discount, but do they give a break in the price, but I guess a discount to those uninsured compared to the insured?
Well, they do have charity care and financial aid, and charity care can go to the extent where it completely wipes out the bill. Hospitals must provide you information before they give you a bill on the fact that charity care exists. And if you download our handbook or go to the website, which I mentioned earlier, it will help you understand what your income and asset levels do qualify for charity care and how much you qualify for.
So it's almost like you're applying for college, right? Like financial aid in college.
Almost.
Almost like that.
Almost like that. And there are There are nonprofit organizations that will help you apply. There's one called $4, F-O-R, $4.org. That should be a go-to for anybody who's uninsured. And I actually think they might even help you if you have insurance. Apply for financial aid and charity care. This is such an important part of this handbook that many people aren't familiar with, but it's such critical information.
Absolutely. And folks, the handbook is only 4 chapters long, only 131 pages long. And this is chapter 2 of the handbook. And Cheryl, what can you tell people who at home who are watching who might not be feeling that great and are scared to go to the hospital, the ER, a clinic, a doctor? You know, obviously, besides looking at the handbook, you know, of what their options are, but they shouldn't, you know, be sick with that, with the, you know, their nerves saying not to go to some sort of clinic, correct?
They shouldn't, but we completely understand, especially these days, and the cost of medical. I mean, people get bankrupted because of medical costs. That's why we knew there was a need for this handbook, and there will be other information on the website. Just, I want to bring people's attention, resources to go to, legal aid. There'll be videos that will, for those who don't like to read, give people a little overview of the various chapters and what to do. One in particular that we've talked about is how to read a bill. So that's important whether you're insured or not insured. You want to make sure that you're not being overbilled, particularly if you're paying entirely out of pocket.
Now, let me ask you a question, Cheryl. If an uninsured patient goes to an ER, let's just say, for whatever reason, and he or she doesn't get an estimate of the cost, and then they receive a bill afterwards, you know, are they on the hook, or can they go to these third-party organizations to try to get?
They can go to these third-party organizations for help. Remember, the hospital is required to let the patient know that there is such a thing available as charity care, and there is such a thing available as financial assistance. Like, usually they're the same department. At least they are here in Hoboken.
Exactly. So. Exactly. All right, Cheryl. So we have about a little over 90 seconds to go. I think it's important for you to say where the website is, where people can find this handbook, especially for those folks at home who are uninsured, because this is certainly a great tool for you to make sure that you get the help you need if you are sick. I mean,
yes, I will reiterate that. I also did want to give a shout out to the grant funders of this project, the American Bar Endowment and the New Jersey State Bar Foundation funded this project, and this handbook will also be available to whatever extent they have room on their website, so it'll be available there. It will be available on the New Jersey Appleseed website, njappleseed.org. It will be available on the New Jersey Citizen Action website, and then it has two dedicated websites just for everything that we're talking about here, videos and other information, and those are endmedicaldebtnj.com or endmeddebtnj.org. So you can't miss it. You'll find it.
And of course, that's all up on your screen, folks. Cheryl Fallick, the Director of Growth and Outreach over at NJ Appleseed. Thank you for coming on 2 segments for the show. I really, don't leave me hanging now, Cheryl. I really, really appreciate it. We hope to see you to discuss the final 2 chapters of the workbook and others maybe later this year. So.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you again. We really appreciate it. And hope you have a good summer.
You too.
Absolutely. All right, folks, join us next week for The Pulse on everything you need to know. I'm Peter Biancamano. I hope you have a great week, everybody.